I'm sorry.
Whenever you're ready.
Sorry, are we not exciting enough for you?
Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast. Yes, episode 2 of the LRRcast 20th anniversary edition.
We're covering 2003 to 2005.
Yeah.
The first 2 years of Loading Ready Run.
We're going to get 2 whole years in one episode. Now from a different orbiting underground moon base. It's very closely modeled on the previous one. We took all the lumber's expensive. We brought the same wood over. But yeah, now we recorded the first episode in Moonbase Mark V just before we moved, and now we're here in Moonbase Mark VI, which is this room at least. This is a similar sort of setup. So,
first couple of years of Loading Ready Run, obviously there was no Moonbase.
No, I don't even think there was one for any of the span of time we're talking about today.
No, obviously it was initially just Graham and I thinking that it was a cool idea to do.
Yeah.
We recorded 4 videos.
We recorded more than that. Actually, I want to give us.
We went live with 4 videos.
Yeah, I want to give us props for this because it's like we figured out how to do this properly right at the very beginning, and then immediately forgot, and then would eventually realize again later because we didn't just we've said like we did like sketch comedy for 11 years. They weren't all sketches initially, and we had this like diverse portfolio of different kinds of content.
We had a sort of a range of things that we tried to do.
Yeah. And then when we launched, we were like, okay, well, we don't just want to launch with one video and then that's it for the week. So yeah, when we went live in October, the actual date is
October 15th is when we sort of celebrated.
That's when we observe the anniversary. Yeah. We went live we put 4 videos up, and then we didn't do one the next week. We skipped that 1 week because we just put 4 up.
Right.
And then after that it was weekly for the rest of the 11
We
years.
wanted to make sure that the huge amounts of people who are coming to watch these videos that had just been put up would have content for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So we had the different sort of categories. We had shorts, which was the sketches, and very soon nearly all would become shorts with occasional other stuff. Sheer stupidity,
right?
Which was. It was Jackass, right? It was very tame Jackass. Yeah. Basically, it was us watching Jackass and going, I think I could do 25% of that. I don't mean like I could do a quarter of the things they do on Jackass. I mean, we could do things to a quarter of the intensity that they do on Jackass.
Yeah. Jackass, but it's a bunch of Canadians who are friends and don't actually want to hurt each other at all.
Yeah.
Or even really cause bad feelings among each other at all.
Exactly. And they explicitly say, don't try these things at home. And we obeyed that.
It's true.
We had On Location.
Right. Which wasn't even sort of explicitly funny.
No.
Those were just things that were going on in Victoria that we thought might be kind of interesting for people.
Yeah, we figured that'd be neat to do. You have to, again, all of this sounds like very basic now, but please recall, this is, 2003. People were not putting video online. So the idea of doing like video coverage of, in this case, a LAN was like...
This was like a big LAN that was at UVic.
Yeah.
Hi, Graham here. I'm at the Lanigan West 24-hour LAN up at the University of Victoria, and they're going to have a Diet Lemon Coke chugging contest.
I should have said, so the first short that we put up was the brief history where Paul and I we unroll the giant...
The big timeline
where we like predict the future and it goes along and then...
Several seconds later from now, Graham and Paul discuss talking about the timeline for the history of Loading Ready Run.
1 year later,
Loading Ready Run releases a retrospective DVD that sells millions of copies.
1 year following that, Graham is put into rehab after suffering from severe sloth.
We'd like start making stuff up, which we shot in one take because we sort of had to.
2024, Paul writes a tell-all biography that ousts Graham as a manipulating bastard.
And 2 years after that, Graham uses incriminating archival footage to destroy Paul's career.
You were supposed to get rid of that.
I lied.
In like the most echoey area of Oak Bay High for some reason.
It's like this cul-de-sac in a building. They demolished this building now and built a new school, but it was like this weird teardrop shaped. We've filmed a lot of things in there over the years, but there was like this narrow corridor between buildings that then opened up into this sort of courtyard. And we filmed there because it was the weekend and you couldn't see it. You know, the sheer stupidity was tennis, which we lovingly refer to tennis as the first video that we ever put live because it's very funny to retroactively think that the first video we ever put up was the one where we hit James in the balls with a tennis ball.
We need to watch Jackass every time we...
Strictly speaking, all four of these went up the same day, but we'll say we had to pick one of them to be the first one, so we'll say it's tennis. Then the on location, it was Lanageddon West, which was a giant. It used to be you couldn't do online gaming as easily, and so hundreds of people brought their computers up to this huge, smelly room at UVic, and they, for whatever reason,
was the room smelly before they got there?
No, they decided, the organizers, who I still, by the way, see around town. I still see Spicy Meats as his handle was from time to time, and we sort of nod. You know, he was like, "All right." We were just there filming. We were like, "Sure, let's film this." Were you actually there?
No. I
No.
don't think so.
Okay, I was there, and I think like Morgan might have been there. I think Morgan actually had. James, were you there? Did you have a computer there? Were you playing?
Yeah, I was there and playing at Lanageddon for sure.
Okay, that makes more sense. I didn't because I never had a PC, but so I was just sort of filming, and then at one point it was just kind of like, yeah, here's a big LAN. Here's people doing a LAN. All right, sure. It wasn't going to be a very interesting video until they came on the speaker and were like,
all right, competitors, time to head outside for the Diet Lemon Coke chugging contest.
and I was like, great, that's a video.
To think back in the day, Diet Lemon Coke was like the worst thing we could think of in terms of soft drinks.
Yeah.
We were young and innocent then.
Yeah, they used to have lemon-flavored Diet Coke, and this was not refrigerated. And so then we filmed a bunch of people chugging Diet Lemon Coke. One of them threw up. Hey, that's content.
And then we also had what was called at the time 14 Ways to X.
That wasn't one of the first ones, actually. The other fourth of the four videos was an installment of the Girly Magazine quiz.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. The Girly Magazine quiz.
Which was my sister used to get Cosmo Teen or Teen Vogue, one of like the teen versions of the fashion mags. And
there's like the like, what kind of X are you?
Yeah. And
which are now like, BuzzFeed
quizzes essentially. Yeah. And we thought it would be funny for us to do those.
A guy friend asks if you've ever done it. You say, "Not your business," or "Done what?"
We know that we're thinking about the same dick here, right?
God, I hope so.
Yeah, which I think is still a funny idea.
Yeah.
Although I think the way we did them wasn't particularly funny.
No.
Madonna only karaoke night.
Oh, God, I hate that name.
You sing Like a Virgin or music.
Is there a thing for singing Weird Al parodies of Madonna songs instead? Blast.
it was meant to be sort of like looking at how silly these quizzes are by applying them outside of the lens they're supposed to do, and also just like reading them out loud sounded really funny because the way they're written was very silly. You are prime time sexy.
Oh, yeah.
9 lives indeed. You seem like a nice girl. And you are. But you know how to show select guys your saucy side.
Oh, yeah. And you want to be one of those select guys?
I think you do.
Well, it's funny. We tried to play with this thing over the year. Like we did like 3 or 4 of these, just shot like in the upstairs room of the house I grew up in. And then eventually we would return to this idea with like Morgan and Bill and Derek sort of like quasi in character. We did one of these where it was like, or maybe a couple, where it was like the Girly Magazine quiz, but they had like,
it would like cut away to them.
yeah, it would cut to them, and then they'd like answer like sort of kind of in character, but it was like never clear that we weren't just making this up, that it wasn't patently obvious that all the words that were being said were from this thing, and maybe it would have been funnier if we just scripted it. So it was a weird thing. But yeah, the first one was how sexy is Paul?
I think we all know the answer already.
Yeah, which
I think we know the answer to that now.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
It's taken 20 years to find out, but I think the research is in now.
Yeah. And then the first one, the ways, was the 14 ways to eat fries.
Adam's first appearance.
Yep, being
tackled and forcibly while he was like playing Diablo 2 or
something like that.
Yeah.
Being made to eat French fries.
And so then, we put that out there. Obviously, nobody looked at it or cared because
I mean, it's still, I think, is one of the funniest jokes that we've come up with, is in the very, very first thing in the the timeline, is when you say
October 2003, business opens for LoadingReadyRun to wild critical acclaim.
In that the acclaim was wildly critical.
Of course, it wasn't even that. Like, it was just, people just like weren't looking.
There just weren't people there.
Yeah.
There's, how do you get the word out in 2003? There's no social media.
Yeah. So, we just sort of went along, posted stuff. There was like a blog.
Yep.
There was, and then so we, sometimes you just random, post things about, what people blogged about at the time, which was just like, whatever you happen to be thinking about, or the weather, or
the content that I would now put in a post on Mastodon, or that Paul would do if he had a social media. Was basically what we would do. Like, Paul and I would it was just us. We would occasionally just post like 2 sentences of like, here's a funny thought I had today.
Yeah.
With little avatars that Ash drew. Mm-hmm. Which actually reminds me, also early in the website, I don't know if this was right at launch or just sort of early on, we had comics. We had other content.
Yeah. So there was comics that were done. Graham had one.
Yeah.
Roomies.
Yeah. Because I was doing it for the UVic newspaper.
And then there was Ash did a comic.
Ash did one comic and then into a different comic later.
And then we had people sort of come and go a few times with comics and stuff. But that was sort of, I guess the idea with that I think the original sort of the main thing, or the reason why that was even a part of the website to begin with, was because you had a comic. So we're like, we might as well put that in there.
And then I started sort of recruiting folks from, because at the time I was working as the graphics editor. Well, I started as just a cartoonist, and then the next year I was the graphics editor for the Martlet, the University of Victoria newspaper, and I started recruiting other cartoonists from there, like Anthony Frateroli, who did the cartoon Small Boy and Monkey, which I still love.
It's great.
And he runs the camera shop downtown. there wasn't like a lot of good places to host comics. And so I was like, hey, can we put your comics online and we'll link to whatever website you have? Nobody had their own website. So I was like, all right, well, here's a place people online can see your comics. Because I was
we'll give you exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, it's not like we were making money on it. There was no money.
Yeah, none of us are getting anything.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, we'll turn Loading Ready Run into like this like entertainment nexus. I don't know if that was ever. I don't know.
Portal.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so we've got videos, we've got comics, we've got these funny blogs that we do. Grand ideas, but it was it was that time on the internet. It was just hurl a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and very little of it, I think, stuck. When did we after much badgering from the kind people in our blog comments, which at the time was the only way to interact with viewers,
right,
was people leaving comments on the blog. We finally got around to getting a forum.
Setting up a forum, yeah.
And I don't know when in the timeline exactly that fell.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been a little bit later.
But yeah, fond memories of the Loading Ready Run forum. Because again, that was the social hub.
Right.
Right. Now what happens now on the Loading Ready Run Discord was which has gotten better in the way that they've implemented things like threads and stuff. It's still not the same, but that sort of stuff all happened on the forum with huge long threads and
which technically still exists, but not really.
Yeah. So there was there'd be the feedback thread on that week's video, and there was just
right, yeah, because of course there weren't just comments on videos.
No, because we were hosting the videos ourselves. Right. Which I love this. Because Paul figured this out. Because there was no hosting service for video.
You just have it yourself.
You just have to host it yourself on your own web service that you pay for. And so it's how do you make the files not so huge? And so they were 320 by 240. And then Paul figured out how to pixel double in the QuickTime player.
Yeah, so they would be displayed at, I think it might have been just 1.5.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we was like, hey, we can get away with this. We can do it at 1.5 resolution, and it doesn't look like it's been blown up too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, 320 by 240. That was the size that a bunch of the early stuff was in. I think some of that I guess has been or could be remastered. Remastered.
Yeah, I mean it was all shot in 480 SD anyway, right?
480i.
Yeah, so it still exists at that quality on a tape somewhere. I think we've tried to digitize most of this. It's tough, right? Archival stuff at the time was not at the forefront of our thoughts as maybe it should have been, but there's lots of stuff that we learned. I realized the other video type that we had a lot of in the early couple of years was like a throw. They went up as bonus. This was not like a weekly video, but
right.
Basically, if someone famous came to town, we tried to get them to do a, hey, what's up? I'm so-and-so, and you're watching Loading Ready Run.
Right, and because you worked for the newspaper,
yeah,
you had a bit of an in sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Canadian alt-punk band Gob.
Hi, we're Gob, and you're watching Loading Ready Run.
You better run.
You got him.
We're playing downtown, and I got to interview them for the Martlet, and then I was like, also, can I get you to do this? So unprofessional. The Arrogant Worms.
Yeah.
We asked them. That was, by the way, the Arrogant Worms, which I'm just actually going to check the date of this, March 12th, 2004. So that would have been their show in Victoria in March. Paul and I went to that show, and that was the first time that we got recognized in public as the people from Loading Ready Run, was at the Arrogant Worms show. Maybe it was the next year's Arrogant Worm show. For a while there, they were coming here every year, but that was pretty cool. And then we had Rick Mercer came to the university, and he was walking across campus, and I was like, Rick, can you do this?
What's it called again?
Loading Ready Run.
Loading Ready Run.
It's on the business card.
I don't know where that is now. It's in my wallet, I think, isn't it?
And, that was when our tagline was, it's like porn but better.
I'm Rick Mercer, and you're watching LoadingReadyRun.com. It's like porn, but better.
I kind of like the idea, like which was from the Arrogant Worms.
Yeah, so the Arrogant Worms made that up because it was like, we're a website. They didn't know anything about the website, so they were just riffing on like, well, it's something on the internet. What's on the internet? Well, it's porn,
like porn,
but obviously
but
these aren't porn. So it's go on the internet, go to loadingreadyrun.com. It's like porn, but better. And we were like, yes, that's our slogan now.
LoadingReady.com.
Ready run.
LoadingReadyRun. Okay, backspace. LoadingReadyRun.com. It's like porn, but better.
Because we're a comedy troupe and wasn't that funny. But then it means that I have to...
It required explanations that we didn't really want to have to give.
Although
sometimes.
it means that I did get Rick Mercer to be like, Loading Ready Run. It's better than porn.
Loading Ready Run. Better than porn.
So who watches movies?
This was the big one, yeah. Who Watches Movies was September 2004, so it was nearly a year.
So, there was a series of commercials that was like, who makes movies? It was like an ad for making against piracy.
Yeah.
And it was like
not nearly as iconic as You Wouldn't Download a Car.
And it had like a lighting grip or something talking about how tough the job is, which is entirely true, and that they're it's tough for them to put enough work together to make like a whole year's worth of wages. And that if you are pirating movies, you're stealing from him. Basically, was the premise anyway.
My friends and I even paid good money to see Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth.
The content of it is not nearly is not objectionable at all. Really, what bothered us.
Yeah. So the Who Watches movie. So the idea was that because they would show these in front of movies
at the movie theater,
at the trailer, right? So it's like. And the premise of this was like, who watches movies? And we had a whole thing about talking about, it was sort of a direct reference to the thing. And the idea being that like, there's literally nowhere in the world that you can go where you can be sure to be targeting people who have just paid to watch a movie other than in movie, like in the theater. In the theater. Like it's sort of the only place where you can be guaranteed to be annoying people who have already done the thing that you want them to do.
I don't think it really affects the pirates. I mean, maybe it affects them a little bit, but it's minuscule compared to how it affects me, my friends, or anybody else who just paid $10 to see this movie and now has to sit through an ad telling you to pay $10 to see the movie. What are they trying to accomplish? We've already paid. We don't have unlimited time in the day. And most of us are lucky just to put together 2 straight hours. And all I want to do is sit and watch my movie in peace.
Put that up, and I don't know if I
Boing boing
submitted. Yeah, I think I there might have been like a suggestion thing that we submitted it to, or
oh yeah, right, because you could send tips to Boing Boing. So maybe we did that.
So Boing Boing linked to it. Because it was, sort of the anti-piracy.
Yeah, and those videos had been getting.
I think it was actually Doctoro that linked to it.
Those videos had been getting like understandably ribbed online for exactly the reasons Paul just mentioned.
And we got about 7,000 views.
I thought it was like 8 something.
What's the greatest escape? Going to see a comedy, a fantasy, an action film. There is no better escape.
Who watches movies? Yes, our parody of the MPAA's anti-piracy ads garnered us our first brush with internet fame. Viewed by over 7,000 visitors, it broke our best month's bandwidth in a single day.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
This was astonishing.
Before basically the thing went down, because that like used up all our bandwidth.
Yeah, so here's the problem. Like 8,000 views was a staggering number. This was our first hit of any size, right?
Yeah.
Like before like a couple hundred
where we went
views.
Viral.
Right, yeah, exactly. This was massive.
And the problem...
But I did mention we were hosting these ourselves.
Yeah, the problem, I mean, especially back in the day, but now it's even, they talk about like, the hug of death or whatever, the Reddit
yeah,
thing, right?
Yeah.
Or Slashdotted or, all that stuff where the issue you run into is if you get too popular, then you're paying for your bandwidth and it drops out. Now, for all its faults, YouTube and services like that have kind of removed that as a problem.
Yeah.
In the sense that they have the whole infrastructure set up for it. But at the time, anyway, you're paying for your own bandwidth, and then people, so too many people watched it, and it died.
And
we ran out of bandwidth, and the whole site went down.
And not even, at the time, possibly worse. In retrospect, going offline so nobody could watch it was really the worst thing in terms of like gathering an audience. But also, our like hosting package, we paid a variable amount depending on how much bandwidth was used. So 8,000 views cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like
it cost us money. Yeah.
We had to, and we didn't have we didn't have like proper, we had like jobs, but like this was not a job. And so it was like, oh crap, this is like, what it was like it was like over $100 or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Like it wasn't, it wasn't wild, but it was just sort of like, oh, yay. Oh no.
I think as a stopgap, we uploaded it to archive.org.
I do not remember that.
This might have been what we did later on with popular videos, but I think for this one even, we uploaded it to, or we put it up on like archive.org and linked to that version.
Yeah.
So that there was at least like a version of it out there that people could look at. So yeah, that's the first time we sort of got hugged to death.
Yeah.
On the site, and yeah, that happened to like a few other times with other videos, but
I joked about archival stuff earlier, but we did want to preserve this, and so after the first year, after season 1, we were like, we should do a DVD.
Yeah,
and
that's what all the cool people are doing.
I stayed up really late for a lot of nights at the UVic computer lab, figuring out how to do that. And not as many people bought it as we might have liked, but this was us like burning DVDs, and we got one of those like plunger things where you
stompers.
You print the label, and then you like stomp the thing and stick it to the like. We were if you have a season 1 DVD from the first run,
an OG,
we burned that ourselves on a DVD RW, and stomped the label on it.
It's entirely possible that those
don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure like those big stickers on DVDs and stuff were actually like not good for the DVD.
Yeah. We really felt like we had some momentum, right? Like the thing about, the season 1 finale was again sort of like tongue in cheek, looking back on all the most important moments in the year.
Tennis, our first sheer stupidity video, featured James being hit in the nuts with tennis balls.
The Girly Magazine quizzes, which paved the way for better Girly Magazine quizzes.
Right, but then we went into season 2 with the Loading Ready rap.
Right,
with 64K.
G-Star, Ice Tray, y'all. JB, LRR, in the house, season 2.
Which was very Beastie Boys inspired rap with me and Morgan and Jer, and that was actually sort of like bookended the season, right? Because we opened with the Loading Ready rap, and then the finale was Leet.
Right.
G-Star, JP, and Ice Tray. We are 64K. Been gone for a while, but now we're back
on the Loading Ready Records with the Loading Ready rap.
We're the quote star, 8, 1. We're all loaded up and we're ready to run to the stage,
to the booth, and right back to the bank.
We're gonna drain the moat,
cause we got a square crank.
For which we got interviewed in a German gaming magazine.
Yeah, so Leet might also have been Boing Boing. It also got kind of posted around.
Yeah.
It went pretty viral. The Loading Bay rap, not so much, because it wasn't about anything in particular, but the Leet was sort of had a larger context in that it was about video game history. And
so when Lonely Island says in the track We're Back from Turtleneck and Chain, we started this fake rap shit. Actually, no, you're just way more successful at it.
I mean, it's not like we started it either.
No, we didn't. But that's the whole point of, in rap, you're supposed to big up yourself. But yeah, season 2 was a lot more, I'm not going to drill down on it nearly as much as we did for season 1, but season 2 was a lot more sketch focused. We did machinima as well. We did the Star Ocean machinima of Celestial Sea.
Right.
She's been in there for 20 minutes. What's taking so long? She's bound to finish eventually. I hope she's okay. What did she have for lunch?
It was almost like what is it, the like Samurai Pizza Cats or whatever, like take the footage that was going to be, the incredibly convoluted Star Ocean story with all the cutscenes and everything, with the idea that like the Star Ocean would have sort of a narrative structure to it, because that's how the game was, and that we could kind of make an alternative story that we didn't have to plan out that much, because we could kind of rely on the fact that the game would sort of have a progression.
Attention. Planet is under attack.
What's happening?
The planet is under attack.
So, what's going on?
The planet. This planet. It is under attack.
Yeah.
Which might have worked, but we got bored of doing that.
We did like 9 episodes, to be fair. Like, it just sort of kept going. It turns out Star Ocean games, they just keep going.
Yeah.
But that was, there's we have some particularly beloved running gags came out of that, at least. At least Gravitic Warp came out of that.
Please join the rest of the hotel guests in the lounge as we prepare for Gravitic Warp.
Gravitic Warp? I love those guys.
Navigator, begin Gravitic Warp.
Yes, sir.
Navigator! Navigator! Navigator!
Yes, sir.
During that... look, that wasn't funny the last 3 times you did it.
And could possibly be, proto-unskippable, right?
Yeah, because, it wasn't like machinima, for those unaware, because this word doesn't get used as much anymore. It was like using a video game engine to make videos, but the idea being that you're actually like... It's more like Red versus Blue, which also started around this time.
Yeah, that's
where they're
sort of
actually
the
like,
iconic example.
Player controlled, and they're moving around, and they're moving the camera and stuff. Whereas this was really like dubbing and re-editing, just the cutscenes.
There was a little bit of like running around stuff, but yeah, mostly.
A little bit, yeah. We tried to avoid the UI as much as possible. But yeah, we did a lot of sort of experimentation like that with. With dubbing and stuff, and reusing stuff from archive. We did Superman.
Who is it?
Attractive investigative journalist.
I've always wanted one of those. Yoink.
Clark, get in here. Yet another note from the mad scientist. It looks like he's got Lois.
I've got to help her. This looks like a job for Superman.
I suppose you're right. If I see him, I'll let him know.
But I'm Superman.
Sure, Clark.
Right, we did kind of a Mystery Science Theater thing with that.
Yeah.
My favorite joke from the Star Ocean thing is still...
Divert all power to shields.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my fault. Turn everything back on. Divert power from non-essential systems.
Yes, sir. Shutting down the vending machine on deck 3.
That's it?
Well, we're on a spaceship. Everything's pretty essential.
Hey, that's a good joke.
It is. It is. I like that a lot. Season 1 was a lot of like hurling stuff at the wall. Not that we ever stopped that. We still do that all the time of just like, maybe this will work.
Our walls are so covered in stuff.
That's why we have to keep moving. But season 2 definitely a lot more sort of was kind of what got kind of like getting our feet under us, being a little more focused on the kind of stuff we're trying to make. And then certainly over the course of season 1 into season 2, gathering folks that would later sort of become kind of the crew.
Yeah,
because it was very much just it was me and Paul, and then like whoever we can grab.
Yeah, I mean at this point, I think even like season 1, season 2 was still sort of just sort of grabbing people at random.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like the Loading Ready Run crew.
No, but it was very much like
such.
It was it'd be like, hey, do you want to be in this video?
But like
people would had people had ideas, people had contributions. Like Jeremy and Morgan did like writing for the raps and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Jer in particular had did a few things for us in different ways.
Yeah.
So now let's talk to.
Yeah, right. So now we're going to talk to James and Kathleen because, again, as a reminder, every one of these episodes, Paul and I are going to chat for a little bit, and then we're going to throw to this interview where we talk to different people from sort of like the different eras of the thing. And James and Kathleen have been around since, the very beginning, essentially. So, let's go see what they make of the first couple years. And now welcome to part 2 of this episode, where Paul and I are sitting down with Kathleen and James.
Hello.
And this is the two folks who have been around the longest, who are still around.
Yeah, who didn't quit.
Yeah,
we're not quitters. Looking at you, Wiggins, Petter, Van Humpback, Sevenhausen. I guess I can't really say Watt.
It would have been much funnier if you'd only criticized Bill for
it. Yeah, it's true.
Again, he'd appreciate that.
No, he would laugh.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about you two, how you came to be involved with Loading Ready Run, and why you have yet to leave. Okay. Well, we'll start with James.
Start with me.
We've known you the longest.
Yeah. He was around before me.
Well, I'm trying to. So we obviously you talked about, kind of like how everything came to be in the early years.
Yeah.
And my memory of the very early days of LRR, I don't feel like I had any like extensive conversations with you or Paul about it. Like I feel like one day I heard it was happening, and the next day we were at Henderson, and I was getting tennis balls hit at me
every time.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of been downhill from there.
and you were like, "This is for like a video or something, right? You guys aren't just doing this to me.
You're not just gonna put this in the vault."
I mean, I had the camera, and it was just like, we're gonna film stuff.
Yeah,
let's go film stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've already talked about how in the early days it was very much like it was a you and Paul, and whoever else was available was who got to be on camera.
Yeah, but literally, like not even like who was available, as in like, hey, we're filming a video. Is anyone available to come out with this? It was like, I'm filming a video now.
Yeah,
who's here now?
What was even our how did we even communicate?
I
don't know. I don't even remember what. There was no Slack. There was no Google Wave. There was no
text messages.
I mean, I guess text, but
no. This would be like, I feel that you. Okay, I wasn't here.
Maybe
but
MSN.
Were you not already just hanging out with each other playing video games after school?
I mean, well, no, because 2000 summer we'd all graduated.
Summer 2003, yeah.
So this would have been when Bill was at Redfern, right?
Yeah.
Which was a very popular house. I would say the most. We should play a game at some point in the show called Name All Bill's Houses.
Well, why? So you mentioned, this is probably when Bill was at Redfern. Why, for the benefit of the viewers at home, why is that a relevant milestone? Why are we doing time banking by
Bill's house?
Bill's house.
I mean, that's kind of how for the first 10 years we measured time was like at where in the city did Bill live? Because wherever Bill lived, that's where we would be.
Yeah.
And that's how it's always been. We met in high school and we hung out at Bill's house every weekend. That's how it worked. And then it just kind of kept going from there. Because obviously he lived with his mom.
Yeah.
When we were in high school. But then when we graduated, they moved into a house. She moved out. He stayed. Morgan moved in. Alan moved in.
I think Jer was there originally.
You're right. Jer was there originally. Alan came later, maybe.
And then he may touch on this next episode. But
Hiro was in that house for a while, wasn't?
Oh right, I forgot they had an exchange student.
A Japanese exchange student at Kate's place.
Oh.
When
no he lived at the Redfern house as well for a while.
Yeah, but he moved there when Kate and Bill moved there.
Yeah,
which is why that makes a little bit more sense.
Okay, because I was just thinking somehow a Japanese exchange student comes up and ends up staying with some kid who's just graduated from high school, and it's just like, wow,
just like wandered into the wrong house.
Yeah, I don't think Hiro lasted much longer after Kate left.
No.
Wait, Kate left him there?
Oh yeah, I think so.
What?
I'm pretty sure Kate left. Hiro stayed.
So hang on.
Morgan moved in.
Groundwork in high school.
Yes.
Right. I got into a drama class with Jer, and he was like, "Hey, you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "I've heard of it." He's like, "You ever played it?" No. And he's like, "You should play it. We do a D&D game at my friend Bill's place."
So this would have been your grade 9?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was our grade 10, your grade 9.
And this was when you were playing Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yes.
And Bill was DMing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was Bill and Jer and you.
Yep.
And Alan.
And when I started playing,
you don't know Alan. You might remember Alan from some early videos. Broadly speaking, if you're listening to this, you don't know Alan.
When I first started playing, Bill's dad was still there.
Oh, okay.
And then he took off, and I think that's when Alan came in, or maybe that's when I came in. And I remember you coming in, Morgan coming in eventually as well, I think.
Yeah. And then Matt wouldn't join that group until he moved to Victoria,
which was a year later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then after high school, that just became like the place we all hung out.
Yes. Every weekend, Friday afternoon, school lets out. We all go to Bill's house. Sunday we go home.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of runway.
Yeah.
That was basically certainly like grade 11 and 12, like the whole. Yeah.
Yep.
Video games, GoldenEye, Baldur's Gate.
Mm-hmm. We rung in the year 2000 in that house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's where Grand Canyon came from. You ever hear that? You remember that old nugget? Where I literally just drew a thing that was just like...
It's just a little U. We were playing a game of Pictionary, and it was just like, whoop, and someone was like, Grand Canyon. It was legendary, because it was like a 3-second clue.
3-second guess. That was New Year's night.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, stuff like, someone's got a phone home, so of course everyone else is like making sex noises off the phone because it's hilarious and we're all teenagers.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
Yeah. Sorry, just to intercut, because this is you in grade 12, right?
No, younger.
Younger. For me, it would have been grade 9 and 10.
9 and 10. So for New Year's, you got to you went all hung out with each other and played Pictionary, and you had to phone your parents.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was not my grade 10 experience. Please continue.
Well, sometimes, we'd play D&D for like hours.
Well,
like
Saturday was
like,
D&D day.
Yeah, but it was like all day.
Oh, yeah.
Like we'd get, the few times that it was at my place, we'd play for hours, we'd order pizza, and then we'd then just eat pizza for like an hour and then play more D&D afterwards. I remember taking a break at Bill's place to walk down to the McDonald's because they were having like the
cheeseburger,
69-cent cheeseburgers or whatever it was, and Alan getting like 20.
Oh, I mean, as a group, we would get close to 100.
Oh.
Yeah. They were so cheap.
Yeah.
It'd be rude not to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I should say this was like a basement suite. It had like its own little kitchenette that we'd never used for actually cooking stuff. Just that there was a fridge and a microwave, and like it had its own sort of entrance and whatever. And like Bill's mom was like, "Look, are you you're being broadly speaking well behaved. You're not doing anything illegal or stupid. Great, have fun. You know,
Yeah,
it was
I
just
mean,
like,
yeah.
That is
you know,
stupid.
well, you know,
Yeah.
stupid and like harmful to yourself and others,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
there was, you know, we could be idiots basically, but it was just sort of like, look, you're all,
I'm not here to police your behavior. You all seem to be doing just fine.
yeah. Well, she'd done like school counseling work, so like she knew what teenagers were like.
Yeah.
So then, but after that, yeah, they moved. Bill's mom and Bill and the exchange student moved into this house in Oak Bay, quite near the high school. But they were all ahead of me a grade, so then I would go over there on my spare blocks when I was in grade 12. And then, through the cycle of things, it was like Bill and Hero and Jer, and then Hero left, and then maybe Morgan or Alan moved in, and then Jer eventually got sick of living with Bill, and then the other of Alan or Morgan moved in. I think it was Bill and Alan and Morgan for a while, pretty much a while. And that house was also very close to Matt's place, so it just became like this central,
it was
this
just a
central
party
nexus.
house. Yeah.
The point is, it was always for many, many years. It was always like, well, we're all just hanging out at Bill's. So to your question, Kathleen, from like 18 minutes ago about like how did we organize, right? It was just, I don't know, just go over to Bill's.
Yeah, I guess
someone's going to be
Somebody's
there.
going to be there. We'll film something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I remember filming tennis.
Every time.
I also very distinctly remember filming the telemarketer sketch, which is the first sketch that went up on the website.
Would you like a donut?
What's the capital of Nambia?
Yeah, what's a donut?
Look at those pants, make him look fat.
First sketch.
Yeah, that was you and Graham and me. And that was our friend Jessica's house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jessica and Gareth were the other people in the tennis video.
Yes. Yeah.
These are again.
I mean, they were
friends that
they were around for quite a
years
few
ago.
of those early season 1 videos.
Yeah.
I mean, Gareth, we did hair.
Yeah, where
we just messed up his hair. Yeah.
In a parallel universe, it's Jessica and Gareth here, not James and
Yeah,
Kathleen.
I mean, possibly.
It was Gareth we used to go to the swap and shop with.
Yeah.
Drive out to Western Speedway.
And now you've just gone back.
Nothing to me says swap and shop more than a milk crate full of golf balls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time is a flat circle. Sorry.
So we started in 2003, and it was just before I started dating. It was like at the very tail end of like my high school relationship with my girlfriend then, and just before I started dating Ashley. We started dating February of 2004.
Wow.
So I remember introducing her to the stuff that we had filmed as we got to know each other.
You were living in the basement suite with Adam at this point.
So I was living with Adam at this point. We had moved in together earlier that year. And so I remember, it was right at the tail end of that relationship, right at the start of the new one. And if you actually go look at my filmography on the wiki,
shout out to the wiki editors.
Yeah, you'll notice that I'm in a decent number of season 1 videos and then very few season 2 videos. So like I was definitely not as much around, and I assume, I don't remember, I attribute that to the fact that I was in a new relationship with a girl, right?
That makes sense.
I was probably off doing, that stuff. So yeah, a lot less going on in those early years, especially for that second year for me, which is kind of interesting to go back and look and see that I was in maybe 6 episodes.
And so at some point, they moved out of the place on Redfern.
Yeah.
And Bill somehow convinced Jared to move back in with him at an apartment.
Is that the timeline?
I think it was around then.
God. So this is why I would love to name all of Bill's houses, because there are a dozen. And
that would have been
like
around the time of season 2, because I was still in university when they were on the place on Elford, where we were not really allowed to all sort of descend on it in the same way.
Yeah, well, because did they go from? I guess they went from Elford to, and that's when Bill moved in with Pat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the first place. That's the first Bill's place I went to.
was
Elford. It was like
Elford.
an apartment?
No, it would have been Pat's place.
No, okay, but like Bill lived there, right?
I mean, Bill lived at Pat's place.
Okay,
for a
but
while.
yeah, it was an apartment. It was like a lower floor. It had like brown walls. It had a brown couch. It was a very small. It had like kind of like a curve to the walls and stuff like that. Sorry, I have a picture of it, but I couldn't describe it to you. Like, well, I guess I am, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, maybe
So-
maybe that was the Alfred place, because Pat's place was the one that was near the gas station.
Yeah, Pat's
Yeah.
place is on Fort Street,
Yeah.
across from the Shell.
Yeah, it was like a older apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we spent
so
a
that
lot of
probably
time.
was Alfred.
A lot of time there, going back and forth between there and like the Subway, the sandwich store. We don't have that kind of transit in Victoria.
I definitely went to that apartment once, maybe when Pat was moving out.
Do you? This is very random, but one of the times when I went to visit Kathleen, the first time I went to visit Kathleen, actually, and we'll get to more of your origin later, but I got on the Greyhound because the Greyhound existed. That was a mistake. Never rode the Greyhound again. It took 18 hours. It was miserable. But I shared a seat with the woman who worked at the Subway.
Hell yeah.
Right there, because I was like, I think while we
She
were
was
waiting
like,
for
"You're
the
following
bus,
me."
Yeah.
No, I think while we were waiting for the bus, she was like giving me this look of like, I think I know who you are, and I was like, I'm in the Subway all the time, and she's like, really? I was like, yeah. I'm friends with the tall one and the loud one.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, yes,
Yeah.
of course, which was Bill and Pat. And then, so because I wasn't outwardly weird, she sat next to me for the trip, because there's a lot of odd ducks on that bus.
Like it was the cheapest way to get up the province, and if you literally had no other way of going, that was your only option.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a wide variety of folks who rode the Greyhound.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, I mean, for those early years, a lot of it revolved around where Bill lived.
Yeah.
And wherever Bill lived became Bill's house, including Pat's house.
Yeah. Pat had lived there for years.
It was also not a 2-bedroom.
No.
Bill just lived in the living room.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah. So it was like a coup. He just
of.
basically took it over.
Yeah, as soon as Bill moved in, it became Bill's place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pat was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, did Bill also invite a lot of people over?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pat was cool with it, because Pat,
Okay.
Pat was great and liked hanging out with people. But yeah, it was Bill's place, so everyone went to hang out at Bill's place.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill was like the nexus of your social circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because it was the hangout place in high school, so it was just everyone naturally gravitated there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned like that you sort of, we were just like, oh, hey, we're filming this thing, like, come on, James, be in this thing.
Yeah.
But then you sort of like tapered off a little bit, but then just we kept doing. I mean, even early on, Ashley was in a video.
In several.
She's been in lots of videos.
Yeah.
I think.
But then as it kept going, as it was clear that this is a thing that was going to keep happening, whether you liked it or not.
Well, I mean, certainly, and I mean, you get into this in the next few episodes for sure, but like when Live ended up coming around, and even season 3, season 4, things started to get very sort of like, oh, this is a thing that's going to just keep going. Because absolutely at the time, I'm sure that most of us were like, this will last 6 months, right? Like this isn't something that's going to be around forever.
20 years.
The first time I met Ashley was at my apartment.
Yeah.
We shot it. We were shooting a video that was called Last Minute Shopping or something.
I tried shopping online once, and I ended up accidentally ordering a ton of soiled panties from Japan.
Look, it's kind of gross, but I don't see why that would put you off online shopping altogether.
No, I mean like an actual ton, like 2,000 pounds.
Ooh.
Yeah, it took me like 3 months to use them all.
Graham ends up buying something at a grocery at a gas station.
Like motor
it's
oil.
like Christmas
Eve, and
Christmas
it's like,
Eve.
oh
and
no,
so
the only thing that's open is the gas station.
So he's wrapping a thing of motor oil, and I'm like, don't worry, I'm just gonna buy things online, and then I get into this whole thing about can't figure out what I'm buying, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I did it, I don't know, and then immediately Ashley shows up at my door.
Yeah.
Hi, I've got a 1-ton shipment of soiled panties. Sign here, please.
Yeah,
Please sign here.
Yeah.
I feel like if we were doing that joke today, it would say, here's 30 cases of motor oil.
Tell her I'm not here.
So yeah, our first. I think that was the first time I met Ashley as well. It was like, great,
possibly, yeah.
Stand here,
Say this line.
hold this clipboard, put on a hat, and ask Paul if he wants to take delivery of all of his soiled panties.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the people that your boyfriend is friends with.
Yeah.
Hee hee.
And she didn't leave, so
Yeah.
Well,
success.
not yet. We'll give her time. I guess the other thing that we kind of skipped over, and I was trying to remember, is when I met you. Because I'm guessing it would have been at Graham's birthday party of some sort.
Probably,
in the late 90s or early 2000s. Might have still been when we were in high school, I would assume.
Because of course, because I didn't go to that
you
high
didn't go
school,
to-
I didn't
okay,
have that same. So yeah, I think it must have been at Graham's birthday party, probably when Graham, and then sort of subsequent get-togethers at Graham's place.
Yeah,
which must have been odd for you, Paul, because it's like here's like 6 to 9 people who are a very like close knit friend group, and everyone hears Paul. He goes to St. Mike's.
Hey,
you know,
I mean, there were a few other people like that, weren't there? Like, was there anybody else at those parties that didn't quite fit in with our group? Can't remember now. Do you have any recollection of your first impressions of people? I mean, probably like I'm specifically thinking like Bill and Morgan, if we're being honest here.
Bill and Morgan and I never really we didn't have like a lot of shared interests, so it didn't come. Also, by the way, it's always Bill and that's like one word.
Yes,
Bill and Morgan.
Bill and Morgan. Yep. They were a package. You did not get one without the other.
Yeah, that was like a package deal.
Yeah,
I feel like the comedy and the sketches and stuff were sort of an area of commonality, I guess. And so it was always interesting. We would be Graham and I would often, especially in the early days, we would write all the scripts, and then different people would be acting them and stuff, and so, Bill and Morgan and James and different people who had, different back, they weren't like super British comedy people, right?
Yeah.
So they have a different background of sort of comedy touchstones and stuff. And so that was fun though, because some of the stuff would get, things would get changed, and or just the style of stuff. Like I remember, like this is from a little bit later, but the small time criminals.
Yeah.
Right, then we get to the last room, which is guarded with the laser grid, and you do that thing from entrapment to evade it, and then we get what we need and get out, and that's pretty much the plan. Oh, God. Oh. I really don't think you need to practice that anymore. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
That was sort of Bill and Morgan kind of came up with that idea.
Yeah, and they
between themselves, sort of independently.
Yeah, they and I
then
wrote
they
those.
Sort of brought that as a thing that's like, hey, we want to do this.
Yeah, they and I sort of wrote those together.
You did call the driver, right? I hate you so much.
Like a lot of those ideas came from them. With me sort of being like, okay, but it has to make sense.
Yeah,
you know, and sort of assembling it into like a workable script. But yeah, we had ideas for others we were going to do with those two characters, which of course, we just never ended up doing it for a variety of reasons. But yeah, no, those were fun ones. In like the early days, I was at university,
right?
Because after high school, I went straight to University of Victoria. Because we talked in the first episode, we talked a bit about what Paul had done going to, as it was at the time, Malaspina up in Nanaimo. And I mentioned that I went to UVic, but like me going to university and starting Loading Ready Run was very sort of around the same kind of time. There was a great moment. I love this so I want to share it. But I was in grade 12 telling my dad what I wanted to do at university. And I was like, I think I want to go into art, because I'd been doing these videos for the film festival, right? And I was like, I think I want to go into art. And my dad went to architecture school, and his dad was a doctor. His dad was an osteopath, my grandfather. And so he went to med school, and then he did the specialization in osteopathy. And when my dad said that and his older brother, my dad's older brother, my uncle, is a lawyer. And so when my dad, the second kid, was like, I want to go to architecture school, my grandpa.
That was the like super artsy thing.
Yeah. My grandpa had this like big talk about like, career and what are you doing and are you sure? And, like really kind of tried to basically pressure him out of it.
You could never make a business as an architect.
Architects.
Yeah.
So flippant.
Yeah.
That ne'er-do-well Frank Lloyd Wright.
So, when I was like, I want to go study visual art, my dad sort of like opened his mouth to be like, to like start into the like, are you sure? And then sort of had this like flashback and was like, oh,
this is my chance.
Yeah, it's like he was like, okay.
Oh, I can break the cycle.
Yeah. He was like, all right. But he told me at the time, he was like, you know what I almost just did? And then explained that like his dad had, done that and that, that he was like, so I'm not going to do that. And so, it was that, which was great. So I go to the University of Victoria. I started studying visual art and this is major butterfly effect stuff. Someone from my high school who I was not like super friends with, like we operated in some similar circles, but this girl that like was sort of like friends of friends, and we'd been to each other's houses with groups of folks at some point, but like was not very friends necessarily. She was going to apply to work at the university newspaper and was nervous and had just, because she was a very strong-headed person, just basically grabbed me and was like, Stark, you're coming with me as moral support. And I was like,
she might have liked you.
Okay, no.
All right.
even with 20 years of hindsight, you're still like, I don't think that was it.
Oh, I got 20 years of hindsight on some stuff that I just missed.
Yeah.
With other girls.
Yeah.
Just not completely oblivious.
Not this one though.
Not her. No.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sort of there because she just like needed an impetus to like step through the door, and so she's asking people about like how to apply to write stories and like what the process is. And so I'm just sort of standing there. And I'm like kind of like looking around, and I'm like, oh, you do cartoons. I kind of draw some. Can I send you a comic? And they're like, please, Christ, yes.
Yeah.
So I started submitting comics to them. And then the next year I became the graphics editor. And they were, because they were like, they wanted, they were like, please.
Did this girl end up continuing to work there?
I don't think so. No.
It's one of those like go out for an audition, like drive somebody to their
and you
audition,
get cast,
and then you get asked.
Yeah. I do the graphics editor job, and then they're putting together the team of folks that they want to send to one of the Canadian University Press Conferences, or CUP, one of the CUP conferences, and it's all divided into regions. There's the nationals. I never went to nationals. This was the Pacific Western region of the Canadian University Press, so Power Cup, PWRCUP, which I believe was Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, Yukon?
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know if the Yukon was there. Anyway, it was in Edmonton. It was University of Alberta in Edmonton, and they were like, they sort of had this very, I think, sensible policy where it's like the editor-in-chief goes, managing editor can go if he wants, but like, a couple of the senior people, but also some of the newest, greenest people should also be going to this to get introduced to this whole sort of system and everything. And so I was one of those people where I met Kathleen. So rewind yourself.
Okay.
What are you about? What's your backstory here?
Oh, my backstory is that I got involved in my student newspaper because I went to UNBC, and I had been a fantastic reader of the comic strip Bloom County in my youth.
Oh, hell yeah.
And Milo works at the Picayune, which is why I will always name a newspaper the Picayune. It means like small and insignificant. And
I think Berkeley Breathed was also like a
student
newspaper guy.
Yeah. So I had basically just been like, and that's how all the famous comic artists had gotten their start, except for Charles Schultz, who drew comics for his church. So anyhow, I was very keen that because I wanted to be a cartoonist, that has been my lifelong goal since I had realized that was a thing that you could do, that somebody had to draw these cartoons, and I was going to be a cartoonist. And of course, my first big break is to get into the student newspaper office. So whereas you kind of like went in and said, oh, I could draw cartoons, basically I feel like, like teenager, Kathleen sort of kicks open the door and says, "Hello, I'm here to draw cartoons for you. You're going to take them because I'm actually pretty good, right?" Because I knew I was pretty good because I'd been working on them like all through. Like I've been drawing cartoons at that point since I was like 7 years old. So compared to most people, like I could actually deliver. Like I could do like 4 panels. There'd be a punchline every time. The art was reasonably consistent. Like it had characters. You know, for a university newspaper cartoon, it was like not bad. I also love Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. So
yeah.
So
Conversely, I submitted more than one cartoon of my cartoon Roomies that had the editor-in-chief go, "Graham, what the hell?"
The UNBC student newspaper was, I would say, less discriminating against staff, and they were all just like a bunch of nerds who wanted to hang out together and play like StarCraft and stuff like that.
Sick.
Like I ended up like they were all like my besties in university because I had as previously alluded to, my teenage experiences of what a party was like was less supervised and had a lot more drinking and marijuana use.
It's long been established that Kathleen and I would not have been friends in high school.
Oh, I think we would have gotten along. I just don't think we would have hung out together.
No.
Yeah.
No, dude definitely would not have hung out together.
But at the same time, I'm now going to university and thinking I don't want to be friends with anybody I went to high school with. So I went to university in the same town as I went to high school with. I graduated from PGSS. I went to UNBC. I was not friends with anybody from my high school. I like just stopped talking to everybody I went to high school with, like 2 exceptions, because I found a lot of them exhausting and very dramatic. They didn't love me either. So, but I'm a take me or leave me kind of person. So anyhow, I get into my student newspaper and I quickly, because I care and I have passion, start doing things, and I start like writing news articles and drawing comics. And
it seems like comics is the way to get into the student newspaper.
Yeah. I feel like they're the most desperate for comics.
They always need them, and then you sort of have your foot in the door and you'd be like,
highly
I
recommend.
can edit things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It certainly would explain why we did a lot of comics in the early days of Loading Ready Run.
Yep.
Because it's a background that both of you came
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, a bit earlier this episode with Paul and I, that we hosted a bunch of comics, and a lot of it was people from the Martlet. Our newspaper was called the Martlet. It's a heraldic bird. It has no feet. It's only ever used on heraldry. Anyway, UVic used to be a satellite campus of McGill, and there's 3 Martlets on the McGill. Anyway, later when I became graphics editor of the Martlet, I was like, "Hello, other cartoonists.
Yeah,
would you like a place to host your cartoons on the internet? Come to me." But anyway, you were working at the UNBC paper Over the Edge,
which was named because they needed to name the paper when they incorporated the university, which had not been that many years before, and so they named it Over the Edge because that was the name submitted, because the name.
The name.
We opened it up for submissions. We only had one.
There was one submission, and the prize for naming the newspaper was a zucchini.
Sick. I mean, I wouldn't have even suggested a name if that was the prize. So
good start. End up with like newspaper McNewspaper face.
Yeah, well,
that's what we would get today.
Yes, thankfully that predated this that meme. So anyhow, Over the Edge, despite having maybe not the most serious or well-staffed, tried really hard, and we were a pretty good newspaper because of it. And we were all making a go of doing journalism, but UNBC wasn't very old, so like we're like some of the first few people to like get that newspaper going. It was in a better state when we left it, right? We went to a newspaper conference, and we each knew somebody named Trevor independently that I had met at a previous newspaper conference.
I didn't know Trevor, but other people at the Martlet knew Trevor.
So we knew him from going to like a BC meetup or something like that.
Okay.
Because we went to a lot of cup conferences because we were willing to pay our own way and drive, and we needed to like improve our skills because we cared.
This was my first cup conference. It was on Halloween weekend.
I was going to say, so this was like late.
This was Halloween.
Yeah.
We dressed up. We traveled in costumes, and at around 6 p.m. we were like, whatever town we're near. I don't remember the name of it. It was a small town in the middle of BC somewhere. Started with H. We were like, great, pull over. We're going trick or treating. We went to like
Hinton.
Yes.
There's not that many towns in
Yep.
that direction of
Yep.
British Columbia that start with H.
So like university kids, one of the guys had like a nightgown and a nightcap. One guy was dressed like a logger. The thing is, in Victoria, it looked like a costume. In Hinton, it looked like he just got back from work.
I swear I'm from the city.
Yeah, so
Oh,
we
geez.
hit like 3 houses and got some candy, and then we were like, all right, great, back on the road.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Have we confirmed that your car mooned our car?
Possibly. I don't know. We were somehow it worked out that we had met up, that we had convinced Trevor, who is this big social nexus, and Jeff, who is his friend from whatever college they went to, and I'll remember it eventually. It was Trevor and Jeff. They had to go, they were going to Edmonton. And so we convinced them to drive the long way through Prince George and pick up me and somebody else from my school.
Oh, wow.
Because we had met them at a previous thing, and if there's one thing I'm good at, it's making new friends. I like to, especially the kind of people who like music and go to good parties, which Trevor was, which is why he had a lot of friends. So we went. So they picked us up in Prince George, and so we were passing the same way on like this, Halloween night, and I think we did pass a UVic.
Van. We rented a van from the school.
Because we were like in like, I don't know,
just a car.
Just a normal car with like 4 people in it or something like that.
I believe we were presented with a pressed ham.
Yeah. Not pressed. And
not yours. I know.
I would never have pressed my ham. I believe I was one of the people goading.
Of course you were.
Anyhow. So yeah. Because that's the kind of person I hung out with.
The next night, everyone's at this bar at University of Alberta called Scholars.
Yeah.
And I'm engaged in a cartoon war with the cartoonist from the UBC, the paper for UBC. It's called the UBC, but like spelled like Odyssey.
Kind of like that.
That's irrelevant. But anyway, and so what we're doing is like she's drawing a cartoon and hurling the paper at me, and then I'm unrolling it and seeing what she's drawn, and I'm drawing it's like a cartoon insult fight.
They were probably
I don't know if
flirting.
this is I think she was.
Oh,
I'm assuming.
Oh no, sorry, girl.
I don't know. Anyway, so she throws it back, misses, hits this person I haven't talked to or looked at who's sitting beside me, which is Kathleen. She grabs it, unrolls it, and thinks
it hit me in the shoulder, so I bent down. I thought somebody was, and I was like, what's this? It's a rude cartoon. And Graham explained it, and I was like, I could draw something way worse than that. Give me a pen.
Yep.
So I sort of inserted myself into this discussion. So I guess apologizing to UBC cartoonist for cock blocking her, I guess. And then we spent the whole night talking about like Homestar Runner and all of the things that
Final
we liked.
Fantasy.
Oh yeah, turns out we were both huge nerds.
Yeah, and this is the key, because this was the end of October, so we'd only launched Loading Ready Run a couple weeks prior.
Yeah.
So I was like super into this cool thing that I'm doing, and so I had my laptop and I showed you the Halloween special with everyone walking around with pumpkins on their heads.
I've always been so easily impressed.
Yeah, and you were like, "That's hilarious."
Yeah, it was
What
cool.
fun.
Okay, so at the time,
people were doing video stuff.
Yeah, you have to remember, you do not necessarily load up a website to watch a video that somebody has made. That is, at the time, was an interesting use of an online space. And I, being a big nerd, I hung out with people who like were very nerdy, right? Like the kind of people who are like, when we're not producing the newspaper, this is our personal clubhouse, and we have like marathon on the computers here, right? Like very nerdy people, all of whom were a couple of years older than me. So I got this huge crash course in like video game culture and stuff like that, and so like to see that, I was like, wow, that's honestly very cool, because I could sort of appreciate how difficult that was. So I was suitably impressed.
Well, thank you. So yeah, we kept in touch after that weekend.
Yeah.
And kept hanging out, and then I came up to visit.
Yeah.
That summer, which was
that was a cool summer.
Yeah.
So that would have been summer 2004 now?
Yeah.
And so that leads to the first Loading Ready Run video that you were ever in. Can you remember which one it was? James has written all these down.
No, was it something filmed in Prince George?
Sure was, because
you were there.
I was the editor, And if I'm going out of town, we didn't have a backlog.
Yeah,
Can you
we didn't.
imagine?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a backlog.
If I'm going out of town, then I got to take my laptop and my camera, and I got to film and edit
Yeah,
something
it was like, you
while
better come
we're there.
back with something.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I, at this point, am living with my boyfriend at the time, Chris, and
I was going to visit platonically.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know how to get down to the meadow. We're incompetent. I don't go outside. It's filled with ants and bees and nature and sunlight. And was I living with Travis at this point as well?
Yep.
Travis, who I met at the newspaper, who is a very cool dude. Was it something to do with crop circles? Because there's that crop circle.
That was a later visit.
Oh,
I believe.
okay.
Either a later visit or later that same visit.
It might have been later that same visit because I was interning at the newspaper when you
Right.
came up to visit. And that was definitely a thing that I insisted to go out and check out because I was like, please let me write about the crop circles. And they're
Biggest
like,
letdown
fine.
of a crop circle in the world. It was
Well-
just like a bear had laid down somewhere.
Okay, but what is my job if not the intern at the local, like the weekly newspaper, not the good newspaper, the weekly newspaper, because
And to go and debunk a crop circle report.
to also fan the flames that there might have been a crop circle in the first place. So there's jack shit over there is what he's saying.
It's you got to do the like unsolved mysteries thing where you just spend half an hour like leading up to it.
If I could just interject with an internship story. So I am interning at the local newspaper, not the daily important newspaper, the PG This Week, like low tier newspaper, because they posted an internship because they wanted to give the editor-in-chief's kid a job for the summer, but they had to post it. And unbeknownst to them, Kathleen very seriously even took out her labret piercing so she could go and apply for this job properly. And because of my experience and the fact that I knew a lot about newspapers and I had amazing writing samples, because I wasn't a bad writer, actually destroyed this kid. And because they had to post it, they're like, it's actually like... I don't want to work with this kid. I want to work with this girl from the university newspaper that's applied for the first internship we've ever done. So I was going to start at the PG This Week for half of the term and then move up to the Prince George Citizen for the other half of the term of the internship because they were like, fine, we'll give them 2 roles because we need to hire a new person because a reporter just quit. Basically, I got to sort of be a reporter in training at the PG This Week. It was a great internship. I learned a lot. So I did my 1.5 months at the PG This Week and just destroyed it, killed it. Everybody loved me. I got offered a job there if I wanted it after I graduated. And then I was supposed to go to the Prince George Citizen. But the thing is, boss's kid was so bad at his job.
Oh, no.
The PG This Week could not function without a reporter. I had been filling that role. He couldn't do it. He was terrible. They had to send me back to the PG This Week and him back to the Citizen.
Oh.
So I only got a week at the Citizen because he was so incompetent.
Brutal. That's awful. He was so bad, but they could hide it at the Citizen.
Yeah, because he just didn't
'Cause
do
there was a
anything.
bigger
But
staff.
I was like one of 2 reporters, so they needed, and the other person was the sports reporter, so they needed someone to cover all of the other stuff, which I could do because I could do it as I was a trained journalist at that point.
I love that the reporters are the sports reporter and the everything else reporter.
Yeah, the arts. Well, okay, but this is how I got to be like, I'm going to go cover this crop circle. I'm going to write album reviews. Somebody wrote in saying they really liked my review of Sky Blue Sky by Wilco that summer. So that's why I was out covering a crop circle. Please continue. I'm sorry.
I'll give you a hint to your first video.
Okay.
Because if you recall, Paul and I talked about this earlier in the episode, that we launched with a bunch of different categories of video, which I think was very smart of us. Whatever happened to that? It was a sheer stupidity video.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, was it eating dog food?
That's still spoilers. Yes, it was the super mystery can showdown.
Yes, and my friend Eric's in it.
Yeah.
That was one of my besties from university.
Yep.
Who is the younger brother of somebody who worked at the newspaper.
Yep.
Or sorry, the cousin. Anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, and we did indeed get to we did go out to the crop circle as well. Yeah, I remember that.
That was a fun summer.
Yeah, and so then after that, you then moved to Chetwynd, and I came to visit there, and we filmed videos in Chetwynd, like OMG Bears.
Where did you get that from?
Bearapedia.
Well, they're a pretty reliable source.
Yeah. I did an internship at the Chetwynd paper like the next year because the Citizen didn't do internship again, I think, or something. I ended up working at the Chetwynd paper. Maybe I'd done that beforehand. It doesn't matter. So I was up there, and I moved there because I wanted to pay off my student loan. So I did the oil and gas thing.
But this is much more interesting and relevant.
Yeah.
Is that by the before the end of season 1?
Yes.
You'd written your first sketch.
Yes. I think I written my first sketch and sent it to you before I was in a sketch. Was I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was because it was door to door.
Not many people know, but after Vatican II, hell became kick-ass. We've got Galaga now.
And Pong.
With the door to door Satanists, which was near the end of season 1.
Still, honestly, I think a solid concept.
Yeah.
But taking Satanism out of the Christian context is like yin without yang. It's just an image. Without Christianity, your perspective is groundless. You've reduced your religion to the simulacra.
I'd probably cringe inside out if I watched it again, but I think y'all did a great job. And at that point, I knew that my career as a cartoonist was probably over, because if I could get people to say my jokes without having to do all the tiresome work of drawing it,
yeah,
no more drawing.
So yeah, then it's just sort of kept going. Now you obviously were still long distance for some time.
Yeah.
Up in Chetwynd and then down to Vancouver, and then actually didn't manage to. I didn't manage to coax you over to Victoria until we filmed Strip Search.
12 artists will face the challenge of a lifetime. Chosen from nearly 1,000 applicants, 6 men and 6 women from all over North America are competing for the prize of $15,000 in cash and a year embedded in the penny arcade empire.
Is that when you moved here?
No, I moved here after I got spectacularly fired from my job in Vancouver, remember?
Well, because you moved the same time
I took my severance money.
Moonbase Mark III, right?
Yeah.
Literally the same weekend, because we used the same truck.
Same truck, yeah.
You made an Elizabeth Bathroy reference on Twitter, and they used that as an excuse
to fire me. But that's okay, because comeuppance was mine.
Yeah.
They had a bad time after I left. It turns out I'm hard to work with, but good at my job.
Because you previously been fired from like a White Spot?
Oh, yeah.
And was it Superstore?
Superstore.
Yeah. To be fair, why were you fired from Superstore?
Just generally a bad...
No, why did they say? Why were you actually fired?
I may have written Go NDP on Shirley Bond's debit receipt. She is a prominent liberal politician. She was the vice premier or whatever her title was, deputy premier for a while for the Liberal Party, which is the other party.
Yeah, that'd do it.
I mean, I didn't exactly get fired for that. They felt like because that is like too hot politically, right? But then they found some other excuse to fire me like a month later. So, but like they probably fired me for that.
I feel like it sounds like finding an excuse to fire you at that job probably wasn't that hard, though.
No,
It said you were probably not super enthusiastic about that job.
No, I didn't like getting there. It was very far across town from my house, so I often had to walk all the way there for my shift, which sucked. I was like a grocery checkout clerk, and occasionally I would get in trouble and like give lip back for people being like, "Don't help that old lady bag her groceries because you're not supposed to be helping anyone bag those groceries." I'm like, "That old lady's 1 trillion years old and is buying 90 cans of cat food. Do you want her to get out of here or not?" Right? Like, and so that you're not supposed to say that to your boss, as it turns out, right? You're supposed to go, "Yes, ma'am, your rule is stupid and I will obey it." See, I'm not cut out for these kinds of jobs.
So yeah, entice you over to Victoria once you got fired from the other job in Vancouver. You did get a gig at a tech company in town.
Yeah.
Where you also had to work with a Nepo child.
Yeah, I hate Nepo babies so much.
She was like rocking in at like 11 o'clock with sunglasses being like, "Don't talk to me."
I was like, you don't want to do anything and I don't want to work with you. And so it was fine, but like...
We actually, I should say, we did some video work for that company now that I think about it.
Yeah. And
we don't have to name them.
Definitely used their offices before.
We used their offices for some sets.
Mm-hmm. This is a picture of a cat wearing a belt.
I have a prototype.
That's a belt.
It's a very tight belt.
In like season like 5, 6,
Mm-hmm.
7 maybe.
Yeah.
Ben Wilkinson worked there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like did some like sort of video contract work for it. We didn't do a lot of video contract work, but we have done some.
Yeah.
And this was one of them. And boy, working with that CEO was a challenge because he was just like, he would just open his mouth and be like, this is all the stuff that we do. Now you have to illustrate it. And it's like, how? What? That doesn't even track.
Yeah, I sort of got that job like this was like an internet marketing job before like it got really focused on like just like running these algorithm things, right? So you'd be more like it was more creative, like put stuff out in the ether. But God, working with that guy, he'd change his mind like 9 times in a week. So I never did anything because every time I'd do something, he'd demand it to be changed. So eventually, that was the first job I was basically like, meh. Tell me what you want done and I'll get it done, but I'm not going to be proactive about anything. Right. And so I got laid off like 8 months later because I don't know how that business made money. So I was just kind of waiting to get laid off. And I was like, peace. And then started working for Loading Ready Run on a contract and never looked back.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. I had another job in between that I actually had. No, I had to quit and then turn out a different job to go work at Loading Ready Run, but it was worth it.
Right, because we needed your help for strip search.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe looking back a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And at some point in this time, I realized that all my newspaper writing skills and all my like journalism skills were somewhat like weirdly applicable to video editing. Because when you're doing journalism, you have to take all these different facts and like, so that's not relevant. That's not relevant. That's not relevant because I don't feel like writing that much and I have a word count. And then you have to sort of arrange things in a way that makes sense for a reader.
Has to flow. And,
it's this similar kind of mental space.
Yeah. The writing skills translate to the editing skills in a weird way.
I think working in the newspaper helped me a lot too. I mean, especially for Checkpoint, being able to like actually, be like, so-and-so said this. And I was like, where did they say that? Like, let me drill all the way back here. Let me find the actual press release. What's going on here? Oh, that's an interesting context. That's different than what was mentioned in the article.
Yeah. What's the sort of kernel of this story?
Yeah, exactly. So that was, so university for me actually, because we didn't mention this earlier when just Paul and I were talking. In a similar fashion to like going up to visit Kathleen, better come back with a video. Some weeks I was so slammed on doing my university work that we had to sort of double dip.
Right. We used your university. There's a couple of videos that are just from your university work.
Like Shake Your Hands, the Shake Hands with Danger remix, right? That was a thing I did for video class. This is fun.
Good,
Let's put this up. Yeah,
that was in like a film festival or something.
I think so. What was that? What was the name of that weird arts festival? I can't remember. It was. We went to see it at the same place downtown where we saw the Neil Gaiman reading.
Yeah,
when he was in town. Wow. Sorry, just wild memories flooding back. But yeah, I did a bunch of video art classes. I extensively used the university's lab to do our early season DVDs, staying way super late into the morning at the lab, like manually burning the DVDs and figuring out how to make all the like menu structures work. I was so proud when I figured out how to program a random button. And we used that space, actually. We used the AV lab for, I think it's called Mental Battle.
Do you remember me, Paul? Your best friend from elementary school?
It was you. You had Mental Battle. Sorry, Ashley was in it. That was it.
Ashley was in it.
Yeah.
But
with like different spotlights.
Oh, yeah,
it was like a big studio room with like different colored spotlights and things.
So you're not John Lewis?
No.
I see. I guess there's been some sort of mix-up. Sorry to bother you.
You kind of suck at this, don't you?
Silence.
And they had a big green screen, so we did some early like MST3K alike videos with you and I there.
Hi.
I'm Graham.
I'm Paul.
And welcome to Loading Ready Run 3000.
This week's video is an office informational film from 1958.
It demonstrates one of the problems that you can encounter in the office.
So, let's go.
McGraw-Hill Text Films. We film text, so you don't have to.
The bright young newcomer for The Revenge.
Yeah, we did a few things like that there.
Yeah. And that was great. I had a great time there. I took some excellent film studies classes. Shout out to Mitch Perry. I very much doubt that you're watching, but he was watching at the time. This is my professor. He watched our stuff, which I appreciated. But
Aww.
like just the coolest prof. Learned a lot about video stuff. Learned a lot about video stuff. Learned a lot about the construction of a film from him, particularly in the summer course of The End of the World as We Know It, The Apocalypse on Film. It was an entire class just about apocalyptic cinema.
Yeah.
Which was great. He talked about how Armageddon and Deep Impact came out the same summer.
Yep.
And he was like, Armageddon is the carob nut cluster to Deep Impact's rich dark chocolate was the comparison he used.
Wow.
So like I was on track to get like, my bachelor in visual art with a minor in film studies. Probably only a year left to do that, but it was getting harder and harder to keep up with all the schoolwork. And at that point I was also the production coordinator for the Martlet, which is like one of the three head positions.
You're laying out the paper.
Laying out the whole paper, doing all the page layouts. I'm responsible for the whole feature pages. I have to make sure that all the ads fit and everything. And
You're wrestling with Quark Express till 2 a.m.
Oh God, Quark Express. We'd only just moved to doing PDF delivery when I started there. Working with, actually, funny story, with Paul's brother Dan as the copy editor at that time, which is how I learned to love the M dash. So thank you, Dan. We would like print the stuff out and do this like glue paper thing to it and stick it to the giant flats, and the managing editor would physically drive it to the printers. Anyway, it got so busy, all of that I had to sort of have like a personal reckoning of like, I've paid so much money, no debt, because it was cheaper then. But I paid so much money into this, but like, what's the goal?
Right.
What do I do once I've graduated? I get the job that I have, right? Like I want to do Loading Ready Run. This is what I want to be doing. So I just stopped going.
You just didn't register
semester. Just didn't register for the fall semester and just focused on Loading Ready Run. I still had a job because I needed to earn money because Loading Ready Run wasn't paying for it.
Yeah.
But like, it was sort of like Loading Ready Run, job, school. You can choose two of them.
Right.
If I choose Loading Ready Run and school, I will have anti-money.
Yeah.
So we'll go.
I won't have money to go to school and to produce Loading Ready Run stuff.
Yeah. So
I need job.
Made that decision.
And now we'll talk about Loading Ready Live
next episode.
Yeah. But that was sort of a moment where we, that kind of crystallized a certain amount of stuff because we all had to practice for this live show that we were doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, James, you were saying, you the first year you were in a lot of stuff, and then you were in less stuff and things. Like, what was your impression of like Loading Ready Live and that whole?
I don't remember
preparing for that.
I don't remember anything that led up to Loading Ready Live. I don't
know who made that decision.
I don't remember
why we thought it was a good idea.
I'm
so glad we did, but
if we didn't, I don't know where we would be. But like, very few of us had any real stage experience, right? Like, Jer did some stuff in high school.
Yeah.
And Graham had done some stuff.
But you were more like stage crap, like backstage stuff.
Oh, I was what we called a tractor, which was I started as a tech and then became an actor.
Yeah.
So I did some onstage stuff in like funny thing happened on the way to the forum and Kiss Me Kate.
Yeah.
And stuff.
But
I
like
had,
none
like,
of this was like leading role stuff, right?
No, my most impressive role was Harrison Howell in Kiss Me Kate, which was like he's a named speaking part. I got to come out and do my own bow with another equally unimportant character, right? But like I wasn't in the chorus, but I certainly wasn't any of like the lead cast. So really,
you were at the bottom of the program, but your name was still in the program.
There you go. That's the one.
And like this is the thing is that like
that was it.
And so like at some point we just decided that this was a good idea, that we should all be like very equal. Like I don't think anybody really had more to do than anybody else. I think we were all very sort of like across that 90-minute show. Everybody had their own thing. I was like, I had that weird role of being the in-between person.
Prop guy.
Yeah.
So I needed to exist to sort of like tie everything together. And like, I don't know.
We used James's character to cover between sketches.
Yeah.
That like he would basically like come out and be like, well, that was shit, wasn't it? And then like sweep up the stage and like he'd be like, basically he would just like grumble to the audience about how much he wasn't enjoying the show while moving the props around to set up for the next scene.
That's a bold tack to take with it.
Yeah. I think it worked really well.
It did work well, but like
Monday Magazine said James was frequently hilarious.
Yeah, I went and saw that.
I think it was often hilarious. I wish frequently, but I'll take off.
I went and saw that production, and when that Monday Magazine review came out, I swear to God, I was so proud of you guys getting 3.5 stars.
Yeah,
I cut it out. It's still on my fridge, curled and ancient on the side.
But yeah, I don't remember anything about it other than actually doing the show. I remember that, but nothing that led up to it. Well, I remember the rehearsal.
Do you remember?
But I don't remember how we got there.
Do you remember like afterwards, like, you know, because afterwards, of course, we kept.
Well, afterwards
we kept meeting.
Yeah, afterwards it was like, hey, this was actually beneficial. How about we keep? It was. I think at the start it was every Wednesday night we met at UVic, in the same place we rehearsed.
My mom says they're for harlots and Jezebels. Then again, cigarettes have never hurt anybody.
Great. So we'll go smoking behind. We'll go to Farmer Joe's place and smoke it behind the. No!
Are you filming this, James?
Yeah.
Excellent. We have proof for.
Oh, fuck you!
Because we could. It was just free space. I mean, we
would
made
just like
liberal use of
we would
university.
just like wander around and find an unlocked door.
Oh yeah, considering only basically 2 of us went to that university, we made liberal use of their facilities.
We made liberal use of that university until we all got way too uncomfortable with how inappropriate it looked that like people of our age were like hanging around the university.
Basically, anytime security was like, what are you doing? We'd just be like, student project.
Yeah.
Until that no longer became believable.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
continuing education.
Exactly. Advanced studies. So.
It was wild. But I remember us basically being like, this worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear that this thing is going to keep going. So let's keep meeting every week and actually have discussions about like what we're going to film that week, or writing meetings.
And that was when,
like that.
To sort of loop it back to a bit earlier, that was when Bill's house was the place where Bill and Morgan and I lived, and then later Ash as well.
Yeah.
On Fort Street,
yeah,
which you see in a bunch of the early videos with like the wood paneling and stuff.
Or Foul Bay.
Foul Bay. I don't know why I said Fort. That was the like Moonbase Zero essentially.
Yeah.
In that, there was a space where we just hurled all the props and costumes that we'd slowly been collecting.
Yeah.
And
the dining room.
Yeah. And then when we eventually, we didn't need a dining room to eat. We just make a plate of whatever and take it to our room and eat in front of the computer while we're playing Dota or whatever.
Like a normal human being.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. And then, when we finally got the first Moonbase, then we would have all the meetings there.
Yeah. I remember one of our early go-tos for we don't have a video idea this week, we don't have time to write one, was the 14 Ways to Why.
Right.
Or what eventually became X to Y.
14 was too limiting.
14 was too limiting, or it was too many.
One of those.
And I was trying to remember, I remember filming the first one, you, me, Morgan, Ben, at Adam and I's basement suite.
Mm-hmm.
Adam was playing Dota probably or something, and I remember force feeding him fries.
Yeah.
We'd come home from a house party.
Yeah, which we were there for like half an hour, and we were like,
why are we here?
Weird.
Yeah. And so we came home, and I don't remember like the idea behind it. Do you have any memory of like where the whole like,
I don't know,
let's film as many ways to eat fries as possible, and that's the video.
I think we'd stopped at McDonald's on the way back, which was you were working there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
This was not far from the McDonald's either.
No.
So I think like in the few blocks, so we walked back from this house party, which was like way over by UVic. So that's quite a walk.
Yep.
Maybe we talked about it on the way, or maybe it was just between the McDonald's and your place that it was just sort of like, oh, it'd be funny, like, for a video for this dumb thing that we're doing, that's very, very new. Because this was like, how early in the list was this particular
early.
video? Like
it was within the
It's
first
like
couple
first
months.
season,
It was
yeah.
2003. Like I'm pretty sure it was like video, like first 15 videos.
According to the wiki, the 9th video.
Yeah.
November 21st, and it was just like, I don't know. I got my camera because I always have my camera. It was just like, let's just film. And it was like 2 a.m. Like it was late.
Yeah.
Because we were just up and we were going to this party. We had high energy, but we had nothing to do. Although it did peter off, right? Because I think we said we wanted 14.
Yes.
But we, as a group, we filmed like, I want to say 12. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to finish these last 2. I got to figure something out for this. Like
Is that how the Sam Raimi came to be?
I can't remember. I think we were just really into the
Evil Dead at the time.
Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2. I can't remember which one time-wise. 2003. Spider-Man 2 maybe?
That would have been 2, yeah.
Would it come out? Because we big fan of all the old Evil Dead movies.
Yeah.
And then sort of referencing the fact that Sam Raimi loves to have like POV moving shots, and then we were like, oh yeah, we should call it the Sam Raimi, and then that just became a staple.
Yeah.
Of those things. But yeah, that was just like.
But those series became kind of a fallback.
Yeah,
a little
it did actually for a while.
Yeah, the fries, ways to make
Coke. We did
ways
Coke
to drink
next.
Coke,
Yeah.
ways to make somebody leave the room.
Ways to hide a Christmas
Which had
tree.
Alex in it?
Oh, that was probably much later.
Oh yeah. Well, that was still at the house with Graham and
Yeah, but that
Bill
would have been
Warner.
like season 3 or 4. But yeah.
That's when we took the Christmas tree to the park.
Yep.
And set it on fire.
Yep.
And then we were like, that was probably illegal.
Yeah.
We shouldn't use this footage.
Yeah, that was probably not a great thing to have done. It was like on a concrete thing.
Yeah. If we can find that footage,
it probably was safe.
You'll be seeing it here because I'm sure the statute of limitations for setting a Christmas tree on fire in Carnarvon Park is probably fine.
Oh God, why'd you tell them the name of the park?
There's a detective with a scorched patch.
We were clear and free until you named the park.
Yeah.
He's been working this case for 16 years, Graham.
Yeah, it's been an open case for all this time.
If we want to talk about footage we probably did never use, what about that paper towel fight at Strathcona Park or whatever that park is called?
Oh, yeah.
The one between like
That was Strathcona Park. Yeah, we were walking past Central Middle School as it is now, and they just had like the door to their like storage, their external storage thing was open.
Yeah,
and they had like a pallet of the school paper towels. They come in they come in a bundle.
Yeah.
Wrapped up with paper that they go in like the machine or whatever, and we just took some.
We stole a bunch,
and then we had
took them to a park and threw them at each other, and they blew up.
We had like you'd huck one, and then it would hit somebody, and then the paper would pop, and then it would just be like, poof.
Yeah.
It looked great, but it was like,
what are we going to do with this?
What are we doing?
But because you were fine, upstanding young gentleman, you cleaned up all the paper afterwards, right?
As far as I'm aware.
Probably. Yeah. Oh,
I don't think I was present for this.
No, you were
particular
not.
one.
No,
no,
you weren't.
But
I was not there.
We had the presence of mind to not put it on the internet.
Yeah.
We were like, we shouldn't use
Oh,
this.
that's something the kids today don't have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Learn from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been. I mean, I guess we'll talk more as we go through, but like, it's been good to look back at stuff and see that, like, obviously, language has changed, and there's certain topics that we understand better now than we did before. But broadly speaking, there's nothing horrendous in the backlog.
No.
You know, like at the 15th anniversary stream 5 years ago, right? We watched some old videos and there was like one or two jokes that was like, I wouldn't have made that joke now, you know, and I said at the time, we don't stand behind every joke we've ever made. But, you know, by and large, thankfully, it's not bad.
As somebody who came into this group, you know, you are nice people. You have a baseline of respect for, women and stuff like that. None of you are a sex pest, which is like, I had low standards for friends in Prince George. Not my university friends. This is why I stopped hanging out with everybody I hung out with in high school. Met new friends in university. Then while I was in university, also met Graham, and then eventually met all you guys and went, wow, I should have hung out with better people in the beginning.
A lot of the time you see people sort of, especially when they're young, but like their brand sort of starts out being like all kind of edgy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is difficult to sustain without, going way off the...
I mean, there wasn't as much to model off of back then either, right? Like, the stupid stuff we did was the thing like stealing paper towel and throwing it at each other, or doing the flower thing because our thing was Jackass, right? Like, that we were the perfect age for Jackass in the early 2000s. So that was the kind of thing that we would copy. And even then, we knew we couldn't do a tenth of what they did.
Even if we'd found, we could have easily gotten a hold of shopping carts, but even that was like, oh, that seems dangerous.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt
myself.
We were a lot more concerned with self-preservation than those guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all like professional stunt people and stuff as well, which is that's
they
why
weren't
they
then.
Now they just recently brought out the video about them being very old.
Yeah.
So there it goes.
All right. So by way of maybe wrapping this up then for this episode, do you have any, I guess, thoughts of sort of, from there to here? Like next episode, we get to sit down with Jeremy and Matt Wiggins, who were both in it in the early years and then stepped back from Loading Ready Run.
Yeah.
But, you're both still here.
Uh-huh.
What's that like? Look where we are. We got the studio with lights and stuff and a tech booth that is indicating we should wrap up soon. Like, what do you make of all this?
You go first, Kathleen.
I'm so glad that I finally found a job that I probably won't get fired from.
I mean, I've been trying, but they keep saying no. So,
well, just keep asking if they can fire me, and maybe I'll listen to you eventually.
I mean, like obviously, this is not what any of us, including you two, would have guessed that we would be doing 20 years into this thing. And I don't know, maybe it's just sheer stubbornness for most of us that we're still here and doing this.
I mean,
to be honest.
and Graham and I have talked about, and I'm sure we will talk about more about the process of this turning into a job and the sort of, not only the financial, but the sort of realization that this could be a job. Was there a point where you were like, oh, hey, this could be a thing. I want to like stick with this, and maybe I could do that. Maybe, I can help with this and be part of this.
Probably about the time I started coming in religiously every weekend. That was
because you were living in Vancouver, but we were filming the Escapist News Network, and you would take the ferry over every week.
I would come over every single weekend.
Ferries were cheaper.
And
also, we were dating.
Yeah, we were dating. That motivated me a little bit, we'll say. But also, like, I don't know, I wanted to be involved, and I lived alone and lived like in a cheap basement suite with my roommate because Adam and I are very cheap people, and I was just using my money basically to pay off my student loans, and so I was like, this is honestly ignoring the ferry, I'm still not spending all that much money. Like, I'm not going out to drink. I'm not partying, right? It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm, this is for you two to answer, but I would observe that this is fun. Like, it's work. It's some days it really, really feels like work.
Yeah. Some days are more fun than others.
Broadly speaking, it's a fun and creative and chill thing to do. So it's nice to keep doing, I think.
I mean, I've been around for so long since the beginning that I can remember every conversation we've ever had about, in the early days, it was how are we going to make money? How are we going to make this a thing? Now we have essentially the same conversation, but it's how do we make more money?
Yeah.
That conversation has never really truly gone away.
Cash rules everything around me.
And I guess
how is it more of a thing?
And maybe somewhere deep in my brain, I'm just not letting myself go until we can stop having that conversation. Maybe once I finally feel like we're all making what we deserve to be making, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go now. Somebody else can do this job.
Word.
Patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun.
Yeah, please, God. You've heard how unemployable I am.
Yeah, I don't.
If we get enough money on the Patreon, James gets to leave.
Yeah, I get to leave, yeah. Can we set that as a goal? Oh, my God. What, like $50K a month? And I'm out.
Amazing.
Oh, dear.
All right. Well, hey, that'll do it then for this episode, I think. This was great. Next episode, we'll be talking about the next 2 years of Loading Ready Run. So 2000, I guess, 5, 6 then, because this was 3, 4. Yeah.
This is 4. This was technically 4, 5, I think, because 3 was only a few months.
Yeah, we started to shift the seasons about where the season.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, this has been great. Thank you, James and Kathleen, for joining us. And thanks, Beach, for running tech. And yes, as they said, until next time, remember, everything we do here at Loading Ready Run is brought to you by you. Patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun, or however you choose to support it, including just being here. So thanks, everybody, for listening and watching, and we will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.